If you want an energy drink that tastes like a reward, check out Big B Energy Drinks. 3 delicious flavors: strawberry smash, white cherry fizz, and summer melon. Super refreshing, super smooth. It hits the caffeine sweet spot, 80 milligrams per can, made for the people who want something more than soda, but don't need the 300 milligrams energy drink full of jitters. It has a smooth onset with no crash at the end. And the best part, no artificial colors. It's the kind of energy drink that you grab on the way to work, before the gym, or anytime you need to lock in and get something done. Take a sip, thoughtfully crafted, masterfully mixed. You can order online at bigbenergy.com. Use promo code Goblay10 to save 10% at checkout. Welcome back to another edition of the Goblay Show. I'm your host, Billy Goble, and today's guest is special guest is a former Florida Gator, played tight end during the championship years. And without further ado, I want to introduce Mr. Tate Casey. Tate, welcome to the show, buddy.
I appreciate it, brother. How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm hanging in there. It's just funny, and when you talk about one loss, Auburn loss was hard to swallow in 06 to a really good defense. I don't discredit that defense. I don't think their offense was good enough to beat us. So we just didn't play that well. But Danny came in and talked to the team about a one loss, and what it could do for you, and how it can reframe that mindset. And I think for us, it really did us good, right? I think we needed that loss. Had it been to a terrible team, it probably would have hurt us a lot more.
Yeah.
But, you had it against that. In 08, that was about as bad a loss as I had in college because, again, a good defense. Ole Miss had a great defense. We just played terrible that day.
I was there for that one, too. North end zone.
That's – you know what, though? But again – you need it. And I think it gave Tim an opportunity to go in front of the media and really pour his heart out in a very raw and, transparent way. And dude, when we watched it as players and you saw the media clip of Tim giving the promise to guys who care about Tim and care about the team, it was like, we're not losing another game. And that team was completely different than 06, right? When you look at 06, that was a blue collar mentality, chip on your shoulder, go, it's us versus the world. And in 08, we knew exactly what we were, right? It was almost a very similar to 01 Miami or, some of those teams that you've seen that they've got swags. And when you put the lights on, we know what time it is.
Yeah.
And if we lose, it's because we beat ourself mentality.
Right. Well, and that's why I brought those two games, those two specific games, as I was at both. The LSU game we did win, and the Ole Miss game we lost. I remember walking down the little spiral, thing coming down the stadium, and everybody's chanting, "Let's go Bama!" I think Bama was playing somebody that we needed them to lose, and it was just one of those experiences that you'll never. And like I said, without those little things, and you said, we don't get the promise. We don't get these iconic moments.
You don't get some of us, stepping up to the plate and saying, you know what, like that's it. We're not losing another game and the mindset shifts. But, unfortunately, sometimes you need to be humbled.
Right. Well, and go back to the 06 championship game. I got to throw in and give a shout out to my buddy Earl Everett when he made this tackle.
Took
Troy Smith down. Without a helmet, I'm telling you, it is. I told him I was in Orlando. This is, I think, a year or two after that, and I'm in this. I used to work for a underground utility company.
Yeah, and
I was marking this old. It was an old apartment complex, and there was a couple cars there, and I'm behind this car, and it's got a bumper sticker that said, "Honk if you sack Troy Smith." And I was like, "Oh, we got to get Earl that. That's so him,
man." And I could go down a list of guys that you play with that you've got a huge appreciation for. A, how they work. B, how they show up. C, what kind of people they are, and all the other things. I don't know if you'll meet a lot of people like Earl Everett, because one, he's just a quiet guy. He's not a outlandishly outspoken person. He's not a big hoopla and hollering guy. He just straps it up and goes to work. And dude, you talk about a guy who A, would hit you like a sledgehammer, but B, could run with some of the fastest wide receivers in the slot in the SEC. I mean, he was a workhorse. And not only that, I love him even more because he was a special teams guy. I think when you look at Urban, if there's one way to know that you're in Urban's, good graces, is if you're starting on special teams and you're a starter, all bets are off. You can have what you want. All right, he'll give you the key to the facility. And if you're on punt team, you're 100% in his best book. And Earl was one of those guys that was on punt team, he had a lot to do with a lot of big plays. But when you look at Jamel Cornelius in the 06 SEC championship game, right, the fourth and 15 from our own 15 or 20-yard line, and Urban, pulls the magic out of his hat for that one.
Yep.
It's because of guys like Billy Latsko and Earl Everett and some of those guys on special teams. And that's why Urban wanted those kind of guys on there. Knowing that if he's got to call a play, he has to trust you. There's no question of, man, who's going to make a mistake or who could make a mistake. When I call it, I know everybody on the field deserves to be on the field, and I'm not going to have to worry about somebody forgot an assignment or somebody's not going to give me that effort.
A cool thing about Earl, and a lot of people don't know this, and he probably he's probably going to kill me when I tell you this, but I don't know if you know this story, but in high school, he hit a kid so hard that it knocked his wisdom tooth out.
I saw him hit a guy in college so hard it probably knocked his grandma out up in the stadium. So she probably fainted just watching it. So it doesn't surprise me.
So the legend goes, this happened and nobody believed it. Nobody believed it at all. They're like, there's no way this happened. And you fast forward 15 years or whatever, and someone in his family worked at a correctional facility or whatever, and the guy that he hit was in the correctional facility and was like, and he found out that she was related to Earl, and he said, I know Earl Everett. He's the one who knocked my wisdom tooth out.
Man, that's
and
crazy.
They could not, but they had ragged him for so long. They're like, there's no way. And that was the I told you moment. Like, I really told. Why would you make? I mean, it's a great story to make up, but it really did happen. I was
no,
like,
Earl's that dude. That doesn't surprise me at all.
Oh, dude, he's Tate. He was an athlete in high school, man. I wish you could. I have to send you some of his. That's what I did. Is I did the films and stuff. And,
yeah.
I was film coach. I got to get all these films for these guys, and Earl he could outrun you. He could hit you. I mean, it was.
Oh, he could run. That's the one thing. That's the one thing as a freshman. I remember most is because they moved Brian Crum from tight end to linebacker. They had Earl over there at linebacker. Those were two of the guys that I was probably going up against most of the time in pass routes. And I thought to myself, I was like, man, between those two guys, if I can at least get open, and when I'm open, if I can catch balls, I'm going to make an impression on a coaching staff. Like, because they were two unbelievably talented guys, but they're also, I mean, when you look at me, 6'7", 215-pound, ginger running around trying to be fast. You can't make 6'7" look fast, first off. I'll be the first person to tell you. It can be a 4.5, and it ain't going to look a 4.5. It's going to look about a 5.2. Yeah. But then you watch guys like Earl and Brian Crum, and they come out and they look like Tarzan, and they play like Tarzan. Those are the kind of guys you're like, all right, here we go. It's time to either buckle it up or, you better find a different sport. Maybe baseball's the play.
That's how majority of the time basketball players are made.
That's exactly right, man. Those Oklahoma drills will get you in basketball real fast.
I just posted a thing on my Instagram not long ago, and it said this guy they were doing an Oklahoma drill, and this guy they met and they hit heads like two rams. And this joker was laid out, and I said, "Yep, another basketball player made right there, guys."
And then those are the days too where linebackers. That's why I had a huge pride at tight end position, being a guy who wanted to go across the middle. Back in the day, right? If I had, that was the one place where I felt like, okay, if I can make an impression, it's going to be being willing to go across the middle. Because back in those days, you didn't have to worry about the referees keeping people off of you. right? It was fair game. And in a way, in the SEC, where you can, I mean, I'll to be the first person to tell you, I took a shot from Co Simpson in South Carolina in '05. And I mean, I don't remember anything for 5 minutes after the hit. And it was either first or second touchdown of the game that I had that game. But I took a shot and I got led kind of into the middle of the field. I was trying to stay outside the hash on a seam route. And I got led a little bit in the middle of the field, and he had about a 10-yard run at me. And as soon as it touched my hands, like I'm turned back this way, and he was coming from here, and he caught me square on the chin. And I'm pretty sure I got a picture somewhere in here with Billy Latsko and Jamel Cornelius celebrating it, but I don't remember until the offense went back on the field our next series. That's how long it took me. Because granted, back in those days, if you went black and saw stars, you just kind of waited for the dust to settle, and then, okay, you could at least hear your adjustments from the offensive coordinators. That's all I needed was. As long as I could hear the coach giving adjustments, I could picture it.
I was going to say, they ask you, you got one of them things going on, man? you got a concussion? You don't ever say concussion. You just go, you got one of them things going on, don't you?
my mom was an athletic trainer. Right. Believe me, she wanted to know if you were all right. And, like most football guys, I'm fine. Just like, let me be. That's the last thing I'm going to do is tell you I've got a problem.
Did you go to the sideline and tell Chris, thanks a lot?
Oh, yeah. No, I think I saw a clip of it a couple months back, and I still to this day, I say, you know what? It was probably on me. I probably could have got a little bit wider. So there's a little bit of shared blame there. Yeah. And speaking of Chris, I've got to say this because I just feel like he doesn't get his due. Right?
Oh,
it's killer because there's a lot of guys on that '06 team that should get a lot more credit and more mention than they probably do.
I got you.
But I think it starts with Chris, and very similar to that Channing Crowder, Brandon Seiler conversation earlier. I think that Tim, in his own right, was arguably the best college quarterback to ever play the game.
I agree with you wholeheartedly.
But I think considering that you're in a meeting room with a guy like Chris Leak, who is a student of the game, who is a pro's pro when it comes to, game plan and film sessions and how he approached practice and everything else.
Yeah.
I think you could really credit Chris with helping Tim mature in a very, very fast way. Now, Tim, on the other hand, what he did his freshman year was all on Tim Tebow. Being just an absolute ox and the way that he operated. But, I think it definitely helps when you got a guy you can look up to and that did it the right way.
The SEC was not ready for that two-headed monster we had in '06. I mean, it was you can go back and watch full games and you go, and that's a good question to ask you is how was that adjusting to different styles of play when I know Tim didn't throw the ball a lot when he was a freshman. I was going to say, I know he didn't throw the ball a lot as a freshman, and Leak pretty much threw the long ball and all that. But was it a big difference? I mean, obviously you got two different styles of play, but was it hard to adapt to that?
It wasn't hard to adapt. It wasn't hard to adapt to blocking. Right. I mean, the scheme is what the scheme was. And we ran a lot of stuff with Chris that wasn't really his specialty, but we still did it anyway. And I think it was just equating numbers in the box and doing some things that were a little bit different that opened up the pass game and the scheme that Mullen and, Urban wanted to run. And I think that evolved right over the years with the tight end and the H-back position, with the fullback, trying to find ways for Billy Latsko to be more involved, trying to find ways for myself to be more involved. I think, if anything, the hardest part was in practice because you go from catching, Chris on a couple series and then maybe you're running with the twos here and there, just on certain looks. And in '06, we really only had one tight end. I mean, there wasn't a lot of tight ends in the room. So there was times where I'd be running one and twos. And you go from catching a ball like Chris Leak, who is probably God's gift to spirals. I mean, it is the prettiest ball to this day I think I've ever seen in college football, to a freshman in Tim Tebow who just ripped out, 30 reps on 225 on a bench press and was throwing like, a kickoff to you left-handed. And even when he did throw a spiral like tight, that left hand, it tails away from you. I mean, it comes in a completely different way. And so you're trying to, it'll test your hands, I guess, is where I'm getting at. But I do remember we were running 7-on-7s Tim's freshman year in the summer and running 5-yard, over the ball spot ups, 5 to 10 yards. And he's throwing laser beams 115 miles an hour. And there were a couple of receivers, with Jamel and Bubba and Dallas Baker saying, "Hey, bro, like, come on, like, 5-yard on a 5-yard hitch route. You don't have to throw it 1,000 miles an hour. Like, I'm trying to save my fingers."
Yeah, if you look at the talent that Florida had on those two championship teams, I mean, it's look how many people actually went pro to the next level. It's amazing. Like you said before, that was our version of the 2001 Miami team, where that we just had star power after star power. We had a couple guys that, like, what was his name that played? He was a corner safety. Was it Ryan?
Ryan Smith.
Yeah, Ryan Smith.
Insane.
Who came from
Utah.
I think he was at Utah with Urban, or with Herb. And so you got a couple guys that were not, that were thrown in the deal, but those are just all his. I mean, it was like a hodgepodge of like different guys, but those were all just the total group of talent.
You can look at guys again. You can go down the list, and there's guys who aren't, maybe household names. Like they're not going to ring out loud like a Joe Hayden. But man, you look at Reggie Lewis and D Webb, some of those guys that were, DBs in the secondary. You mentioned Tony Joyner earlier, but the Jarvis Moss, the Ray McDonald, the Joe Cohens. You could go down to two deep in 06, and that front seven was as good on the ones and twos as any other front seven in the country, in my opinion.
Nasty.
And wide receiver position, you could go across the board. Really in a two deep, because when you look at the backups, you had Riley Cooper and David Nelson. You had a lot of guys that were young, right? Yeah. Freshman players that were consistent in 08 and had a lot to do with the championship. But see, I think they learned really well from the guys who were the upperclassmen. You had when you've got Bubba Caldwell and Dallas Baker and Jamel Cornelius, and you have all these guys, there was an expectation there. And I think what really came through for those young guys coming in the program was, we're not really about bullshit. Like, if you want to win, come here. And if you really just think it's a walk in the park, go somewhere else, because that's just not going to fly.
Right. And that's the thing is, when you have a collective group like that, either there's two things going to happen. Either they're going to have confrontation or they're going to gel. Yeah. And luckily we got to see the gel part.
Well, you saw the gel part, but there's plenty of confrontation there too, right?
I'm sure there was. Like on Swamp Kings, they show incidents and stuff like that, but that's going to be anywhere. But
it was I'll put it this way. I think in the way that we made Urban's job the best, easier, is the team was good about self-policing,
right?
Where the standard was,
right.
And right, wrong, or indifferent, if you had something to say about it, there's a pretty good chance that you better be willing to put your hands up, right? And defend. There was guys who all they wanted was a championship. Right, that was the goal. It was that or bust. And if you had a problem with that and you didn't want to work and you were going to bitch and moan or complain, there was guys that were willing to, punch you in your mouth. And like I said, right, wrong, or indifferent, I think it got guys in the mode of like, that's what the standard was. And if you're not about it, dude, there's the door right there. We'll find somebody that can come in and strap it up with us in that same mindset.
When you were in the 2006 BCS national championship at halftime, I know Tebow gave the speech in the 08 one about the famous it's the last 30 minutes of your life, whatever, 60 minutes of your life. It might have been pregame, I'm not quite sure, but he gave his speech then. I know Florida was up by a big margin at halftime. I know that we still put our foot on the throat, but were there guys at any point going, "Hey, we got this wrapped up in the bag, guys"? No. As a collective group, everybody's like, "Look, you know your job. Finish the assignment. Finish the job."
I think that there was guys who were tired of hearing about how good Ohio State was for the last 30 days, right? I think that was the chip we wore on our shoulder in 06 going into that game. I think we got tired of hearing about laryngitis, or, we get not laryngitis, the middle linebacker. We got tired of hearing about like how good they were and how, overwhelmingly strong and fast. And it was almost like nobody had watched us play in the national media all year. And, that we kind of lucked it out because UCLA beat USC and we kind of squeaked our way into it. So I think for 30 days, it was like, okay, post that bulletin board material. Like that's fine. We're going to find a way to prove people wrong again. Right. And that was kind of our MO. But I think it was like really in the locker room. I remember Emmitt Smith. That was the first time I had ever seen Emmitt Smith. And I remember after Troy Smith ran the kickoff back, the opening kickoff, I remember Emmitt Smith up and down the sidelines, just, hyping everything up.
He's holding.
But it was like in a good way. It was so much fire and fuel that we kind of had to just reset. And, I think for most of us that were in the special teams meeting room, we knew that was a bad deal for us because we didn't place that kickoff where it should have been for the coverage scheme that we had. And then there were some clips and holds that we didn't get called, but I just think it was reset. And after the first touchdown and we reset, I don't think there was anybody that was like, all right, we're going to have this in the bag. We just wanted to go out and step on the throat, right? Yeah. And pedal to the floor. And I think coaching staff did a hell of a job of making sure that was the consistent mindset.
I have an omen. If anyone, if it doesn't matter who I'm watching, if they run the kickoff back, that's a bad omen. They're going to lose.
Yeah, it's almost like the Bears. I think that happened. I think it happened like a year prior. We were over at James Smith's house watching the Super Bowl, and I want to say it was the Bears.
It was Colts. Bears and Colts, yeah.
Right, and Devin Hester ran one back, and they lost the game. Yep. And we wanted Grossman to get a title, and of course, they had to watch Manning win one.
Yeah, and I could be. That's not 100% accurate, but it would be the it's got a higher ratio of happening
versus not.
Yeah,
it's almost like you're doomed. It's almost like you're doomed winning the Heisman going into the national championship game, right?
The Heisman curse, right?
Yeah.
And that happened too. So that's true.
We were sitting there around in 08, and in my head I was going, you know what? If Tim wins this, we're going to break that curse one way or another. And again, outside of Ndamukong Suh getting absolutely shafted in the Heisman race, whatever year that was, I thought the 08 Tebow Heisman run that I felt that was the one time Tim really should have won. Now, granted, does it matter in the grand scheme of things? No, I just think he would have been. He earned that one. Put it that way.
CY Western Company is located in Bushnell, Florida. It's a great place for boots, clothing, gifts, and accessories for the whole family. They are a family-owned and operated business that opened in 2008. They offer free gift bagging and layaway services, and also a 10% discount for 4-H and FFA members with proof of membership. Be sure to like them on Facebook, where customers can stay updated on sales and giveaways. You can find them next to Lowry's True Value Hardware in Bushnell, open Monday through Friday, 10 to 6, and Saturdays, 9 to 5. Be sure to check out CY Western Company.
Catfish Johnny's Restaurant, served at Lake Panasoffkee and surrounding areas since 1990. For the last 34 years, we have strived to serve great food at good prices and a friendly, casual atmosphere. If seafood isn't your thing, our wings and burgers are the best around. We have our daily specials too. We are open Wednesday through Saturday. Check us out on Facebook or Instagram for more information.
Webster Ace Hardware and Farm Supply are generous sponsors for today's podcast. They have been a family-owned business for 27 years. This helpful hardware store sells items such as archery, Ariat clothing and boots, Wrangler jeans, case knives, Hammond's candies, and live fishing lures. They also have a full selection of hardware, RV supply, propane, Ben Moore, Royal & Clark, and Kingston paints. You need a barn or fencing job done? Custom barn kits and roofing metal are provided at your local Ace Hardware store. What about a new grill for the yard? Traeger, Big Green Egg, Weber, and Blackstone are found here, along with all the accessories to go with them. Stock up your workshop with DeWalt, Milwaukee, or Craftsman tools. They got you covered. Remember to go to ace.com to shop their entire line to have items shipped directly to the store. Stitching Heifers is your one-stop shop for embroidered and printed hats, custom patch hats, and trending graphic tees that can be fully customized for you, your company, or your next big event. Whether you need a single design or a whole company's worth of branded gear, they've got you covered. Come see us at 110 Bushnell Plaza in Bushnell. Shop in-store or browse online anytime at thestitchingheifers.com.
Pat's Taps at Catfish Johnny's. Pat's Taps is Lake Panasoffke's only craft beer tap room, offering 12 rotating craft beers on tap. We also offer bottled domestic beer, seltzers, ciders, and wine, as well as a variety of appetizers and pub food. Our family-friendly tap room is a great place to hang out and enjoy some one-of-a-kind craft beer. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, or the Untappd app.
Whether your water is supplied by a public municipality or a private well, for residential or commercial use, Purified Water Services LLC has the solutions to provide you with simply clean water. We offer a complete line of professional water filtration equipment and accessories. Soft water makes a difference you can see and feel. Water heater and appliances last longer with less maintenance. Iron and H2S filters eliminate iron stains and offensive rotten egg odors and protects your water softener equipment from iron fouling. No matter what your problem is, Purified Water Services LLC has a solution. Contact Kenny Williams at 352-446-2709. If you're looking for real fun and adrenaline in Central Florida, head out to Bushnell Motorsports Park. It's a real outdoor go-karting track in Bushnell with high-speed rental karts that anyone can drive, no experience needed. You show up, they get you geared up, and you're racing. It's a great day to go out with friends, a great date, a great way to spend an afternoon. The high-speed karts are available to anyone 16 and older, and the junior karts are for anyone 10 and older. It's also one of the top spots in the area for corporate events and private parties, birthdays, bachelor parties, team building days, and company outings. They handle the whole thing. Track time, meeting room, trophies, the whole works. To learn more or to plan your race, visit BushnellMotorsportsPark.com. That's BushnellMotorsportsPark.com. Well, going back to Swamp Kings, that on that opening kickoff, that's the most I know it's a lot of things are Hollywoodized where they're going to be more dramatic and stuff. And when Silo tells Meyer, I didn't want the mother effers to score either, but if we can't win by more than 7 points,
yeah, exactly.
Maybe we shouldn't have been there.
Yeah. I don't think anybody read too much into it, but it was early in the game.
Well, I like it. I was like, dude, that should have been like an Oscar performance right there.
Well, I love the fact that because I think Seiler and the defense had a lot to do with the mindset at halftime, right? Because there wasn't much that needed to be said. I think we were right on schedule. But when you look at that defense, and the one thing that I always tell people about 06, defense team, and I'm an offensive guy, and I'll say this as loud as I had to, defense wins championships in the SEC. It's not a question. It wins championships in college football. That team and that defense was absolute dogs. And you can look at a two deep from that team and realize how talented it was. And if it wasn't pure talent, it was just dudes that worked. It wasn't even close. And to give it should probably illegal in 30 states or more to give Mick Marotti that kind of talent to work with that kind of mindset.
Not only that kind of time, they had 30 days to prepare. I mean, you know what I mean? It's almost like you're like, oh, you don't think we deserve to be there, and then you almost put Michigan back as we're going to have a rematch, a repeat. It's people take offense to that. So,
well, I don't know if they should or not, but I can tell you this: that 06 Arkansas team, I think there's plenty of people that underestimate how good that team was too. And when you look at the defensive side of the football, what Seiler and that defense did against Arkansas in the SC title game and then turned out and did in the national championship. I'm not sure how many rush yards Ohio State had in that national title game, but I'm willing to bet that it was under 50 or close to under 75.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what it is, but I got to imagine they were under 50 possibly for the game.
Well, Ohio State did not have Darren McFadden or
Felix Jones.
Jones. Yeah, I was going to say that those two guys, man. That when you talk about a two-headed monster, we had a quarterback. They had that two-headed monster at running back, and it was crazy. That was just they just hand the ball off and they go, "See ya." That's
what's even crazier is I think some people gave a say how good their wide receivers and their tight end room was too. With a quarterback who could throw the ball around. I mean, when you look at Ben Cleveland and some of those wide receivers that they had at Arkansas at the time, it's very hard to run a two-back backfield and cover on a play action when you've got the run game they had.
Well, and that's the thing is, people don't ever remember if you didn't make it to the big dance or the big game, or even if you didn't win it all, they don't. Those players get kind of just
lost in the shuffle.
Lost in the shuffle are falling upon deaf ears because like the Felix Jones and the Darren McFaddens. Those two guys,
studs.
Both Cowboys too, by the way. That was good to watch them too. But Mac Jones, I mean, I was at that game where Arkansas came to Florida. Were you there at the time? Was it 04?
Yeah, it was 04. It was I'm pretty sure it was my freshman year.
They were up 35-0 and Arkansas came back. Yeah. And it was like, oh my gosh, like, what are we doing? That is, that's that ultimate game where people go, oh, we're up by 35. We can just take it easy,
rest on our laurels a little bit.
Right.
But I think that there was games like that, I think in 04. And looking back now on it, because we didn't lose that many games in 04. I think people, realize that the Zook getting fired wasn't really that he was losing a ton of games. Right? I mean, he probably had a chance to go 10-2 that season or better. You lose to Tennessee, which should have won that game. Right. And then the Mississippi State game was really.
That was bad.
It was terrible, but the timing of that with everything that had happened on campus with a certain fraternity and all the other things, I think just had a lot more to do with Zook's departure than football.
I'll tell you one stat that I always remember about Zook, and this is something I'll never forget, and a lot of people don't realize this, but Zook did something that Spurrier never did, and that was beat Florida State at Florida State.
Yeah,
Spurrier never did it. He never beat Florida State at Florida State.
In a game, too. That was a game. You talk about where we showed up and played. I mean, Cedric Faison had a hell of a game.
C4, baby.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of brought that old school, smash mouth mentality, and C4 had a game. I thought defense played really well. I mean, that was one of those games you remember.
Oh, yeah. I'll never forget that game because, that's a hostile environment to begin with. I mean, it hasn't been lately per se, but back in the early, when Bobby was still there.
If they would have had, you give them somebody other than Chris Ricks at quarterback, or I mean, he had his moments. Like Chris Ricks was a good quarterback, and I want to say it like that. But there were times where, like 06 and 08, for example, you give them just a little bit more offense. I mean, their defense was. When you look at A.J. Nicholson and Buster Davis and some of those, Sam McGrew, Ernie Sims, some of those linebackers and DBs they had a squad on defense. And I think for us, the year we went in with Percy in 06, I think Dallas had a big game. Percy had a big game. We were able to run the ball a pretty good amount with Keyston Moore and a couple other guys. And then go back in 08. We never lost to Florida State.
Nope.
The 04 class, that's like – honestly, of all the things that I had happen in college besides winning 2 SEC and 2 national titles, that's the most crap talking I give people from Florida State around here is that I never lost to you, so you don't have the ability to talk smack to me. And I've got the right to talk smack to you all I want. Unfortunately, I can't talk any smack to Auburn fans because I never beat Auburn. But got the best of Georgia, got the best of LSU, got the best of Tennessee, and obviously that Tennessee thing was a big deal with Urban. Coming in, that's all he wanted to do was beat rivals.
Oh yeah, and that's what makes an SEC especially. You need to beat those rivals. I mean, if poor Kentucky. I mean, it went 36 years, 35 plus years, whatever, without beating us, and then they finally. I mean, you might as well. I mean, I was about to give them a trophy. I mean, when they beat Florida.
Listen, Stoops. I mean, I say it all the time, and this goes back to just from being recruited by him. But Stoops is a dude. I mean, he's a guy you'd play for. He's very got a little bit of like, I shouldn't say he's got some Kirby Smart to him, but like Kirby's got a little bit of Mark Stoops. I mean, he's that fiery, small guy that just get all up in your stuff and make sure you're motivated. But they've done a good job at Kentucky. And, I mean, I like the shirts to say it's not your grandmother's Kentucky, because it's a lot different than what it was back in the, 80s and 90s.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that point up, because I wanted to say, with the transfer portal, it's not like that anymore. Any given day now, you've got teams that'll upset, and we call them upsets because they don't do that on a regular basis. But they've got players that they couldn't be on your team, so they're going to have to go somewhere. But like when Danny Wolf was playing, I remember we beat Kentucky 65-0 one time, and I remember really kind of like having the game on in the background. I really wasn't even watching. I was at my grandparents' house. And I remember 65-0, and I was just like, okay, well, we beat Kentucky. Like, it was almost like you could look at the schedule and go, win every year.
Yeah, that's
Vanderbilt's
exactly right.
the same way. Vandy was the same way. Vandy, Kentucky,
South Carolina at one point was that way.
Right. It was just not. They were not a household name. They weren't someone that was competitive every year. And now, we could play. I mean, after the Georgia Southern loss that one year, I mean, you never know who's going to show up.
Well, we used to call those games on the schedule wedding games, like right. If you're gonna have a fall wedding, right? If we're playing Vandy in September, like, all right, that's the only date window of opportunity for you to have your wedding, because nobody's going to care too much about what the Vandy Florida score is, and it's just not that way anymore. Which you kind of like it that way, though.
Well, I've been to more Vandy in South Carolina and Kentucky games in my entire life versus I have never been to a Florida State game because tickets are so expensive. But Vanderbilt, they're basically giving them away. When they at fourth quarter, they get the keys out. Hey, warm the bus up.
That's and not to mention that's an unbelievable road trip to go to, because you get a chance to just enjoy Nashville, and tickets aren't expensive. Right. I mean, like you said, they're not expensive, but the flights are. Driving. Right.
And then, you got the 13, 14 plus hour drive. You're going to make it up there. And I mean, it is an experience. I love the whole college experience, college football experience. But having said all the success that you've seen Florida have, what are your expectations? I don't even want to say expectations, but what is your prediction for this year? Because we got a new coach and the whole new staff, and what are your thoughts?
I think back to Mullen coming in, right, when I first started doing radio, and I was doing a podcast. I can't remember who I was on with at the time, but they were asking me a very similar question, but it was more so to do with record. How many games you see us winning, this and that. Listen, I think my expectation this year has nothing to do with the win-loss column. I think we've got the ability to win 10 games. Like, don't get me wrong, but I think if you say, hey, what's your expectations? A, play with an edge, right? Have some leadership. I want to see a different team in the fourth quarter, or when the going gets tough, right? When you get smacked in the mouth. I just want to see guys where you're never looking around the sideline going, all right, there's some guys defeated or deflated. Like, that's the biggest thing for me, and especially coming from our teams. Like, when I was in college, 05 to 08, there was never one single game where once the offense got their adjustments, they weren't up and watching the defense play. Like, that was one of the most exciting things for us as offensive guys. It wasn't sitting on the opposite end of the bench down at the end of the field while the defense was going to work on the far side and just watching the big screen and sitting there. And you're like, guys wanted to watch, Earl Everett hit somebody in the mouth. Guys wanted to watch Reggie Nelson on a pick six or light somebody up on a hash. Like, that's what you wanted to see, because everybody we were vested.
Right.
And I can't help but like lately in the last 10, 15 years, you hadn't gotten much of that. And you hadn't gotten a lot of leadership, where you could see it and feel it and it was real and you're winning games and like it's like your last snap and guys are playing that way.
Right.
And unfortunately for the world we live in college football, there's only a handful of teams out there that have that right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I want to see. So my expectation, you got a coach right now who's got some juice about him. Love that. You've got a strength and conditioning coach that's got some psycho about him. Love that. Like you've already checked the 2 check marks that I would have watching a program play. And that's before you even get to the talent, the schedule, who we're playing where. So I think for me, if I see all that, the rest will come. Like I think You're going to finally get the pieces in place. The recruiting's hot right now. Yeah. And then as long as I see an offensive line that is firing off the football and moving bodies, right? And I'm not even questioning that because my man Trotwine's getting it right now.
I got 2 more questions for you, and I'm gonna let you go because I know you got some quiet time now without the kids, and you got to get things lined up coming off vacation. First question is what game are you looking forward to this year? Like what game, as far as being there on the sideline doing the radio stuff? What is the game that you're like, man, I can't wait till this game?
Yeah, I think there's a handful, but I would say 100% Texas game on the road is a big one for me. Being there a couple of years ago, without a quarterback, without a second string quarterback, playing with a walk-on quarterback and just getting absolutely destroyed in that game was not fun. Granted, there's not much you can do about the quarterback situation that we had that time, but I want to go on the road in those kind of games and show up and play a full 4 quarters of just hard-nosed football and have a chance to walk out with a win. I think the other one's going to be Auburn, right, on the road. Yep. And when I look at Florida, and this is really a reason I mentioned leadership as being one of those things that I've got to see, right? You haven't had guys set the bar and demand everybody live up to it. Like it's been a while since you've seen that. And when I'm talking road football games in the SEC, I think that's truly what wins it outside of great defense and not turning the football over and making mistakes on offense. So looking at Auburn, I think it's one of those that usually escapes us. I can't tell you the last time we won a game in Auburn. So that's going to be a tough road task. But we've got to do better on the road. I think the Swamp, you got a home field advantage. There's no question in that. You're going to win games at home. You've got to find ways to win games on the road, and that's really what the offseason program's about.
Sidebar to that question, you just said the Swamp. I have to ask you as well. So they just revealed the new plans for the stadium.
Yeah,
the $1.4 billion upgrade on there. It'll be finished in 2030. What is that going to do for, in your opinion, what's that going to do for future Gators? Not as far, not just for. Oh, sorry. Me? Yeah, I got you. Can you hear me? Hello? Hello?
Sorry, you got me?
Yeah, no, you're good. Sorry. Yeah, there you go. I was going to say you guys a brand new stadium. It'll be ready in 2030. So it's going to be just like the Taj Mahal in Florida. It'll be one of the best college football stadiums out there. What is that going to do for recruiting? Not just for players, but also, other student athletes that are coming and they can enjoy all the things for it.
I think, it's always been a cathedral college football, right? I mean, when you can put it up next to the top 5 consistently over the last 30 years, 40 years, I mean, it kind of cements itself. But I think with college football changing a bit, you've got to change the fan experience. And I think that's the big thing is you've got to do some creative things. I think we've been behind in that regard in the last 40 years. I think we're slowly making our way forward.
Right.
But as long as they don't take away the noise, and I don't think this plan's going to, I think it's going to make it louder. Yeah. I'm all for it. And as long as they've got, as long as they got some fun stuff, I think what Billy Napier did a really good job was having an alumni section, where you've got former football guys that can get season tickets and bring their families, has been awesome to see. It probably could be bigger because there's guys who don't always get tickets. But that's cool for us, you know.
Oh, yeah.
I say us because my family sits with former teammates and their wives, and like you've got a nice, you know, fraternity of guys that have put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to build that stadium, you know, brick by brick, or at least help with it. And so for me, I think that's the coolest thing.
You know, I think that this is going to be something that's going to be very, very beneficial for the university. Obviously, you know, it's going to be something that they can showcase stuff. You know, they just had the Morgan Wallen concerts in there and stuff like that. Not just for the venue, all these other colleges and stuff are adjusting and adapting to the way we live now. You know, these pro stadiums are these multi-use stadiums, you know, where they can have these concerts and these different things like the Cowboys Stadium, they have the World Cup in there, or they got the NCAA finals in there, or whatever have you.
Yeah.
I just think it's a great thing to showcase Florida as a premier, like dominant, you know, college where they can host things like that. I think it's big.
Yeah.
It's going to do great things for the university.
Yeah. Don't disagree at all.
One last thing before I let you go. I meant to ask you this earlier, but going to go back to when you were playing. What is one of the most hostile places you ever played in? Like when you got there. Now, and I can tell you real quick, Earl Everett said LSU because when they came out of that locker room and they saw
Tiger.
Mike the Tiger, that Bengal Tiger sitting there by the visitors' locker room, he said he had never seen anything like that before.
I had gone to the zoo before college, so I had at least seen something similar. You know, I can tell you what, the Tiger didn't worry me as much as the, you know, 40 ounces in the, you know, in the handles of Old Charter whiskey getting rained down on you from the visiting stands. I think for me, there wasn't really LSU never intimidated me in the sense that we always were winning that game to the fourth quarter, right? Like 05 and 07, we never really were getting smoked or like, oh man, this is way above us. We just didn't play well in the fourth quarter to pull a game out. So like we kept their crowd pretty quiet the whole time. I think the bigger thing for me is Bama in 05 was probably as loud as an away stadium got, or Auburn in 06. Those are the two loudest games I think we played in my career. Now, granted, we kind of, you know, rolled everybody else on the road for the most part. But I think it was Auburn and Bama. And that Bama game, I mean, we got steamrolled. That game was loud. Auburn, I don't give them as much credit because they were pumping crowd noise and like music past the snap of the ball, like half the game. So when you're on offense trying to listen to the hard count and snap counts and all you're hearing is like rap music over the speakers on the snap count, I don't give you as much credit for being, you know, loud or intimidating.
Tate, thanks for stopping by and, you know, taking time out of your busy schedule. And I appreciate your time today and talking Gator football. And I'll have to love to have you come back on again and later dates, and we can, you know, discuss what we're doing and if we're doing it right, I guess.
No, anytime, brother. Well, I appreciate the time, man. We'll get together soon.
All right, guys. I appreciate everybody watching. Thank you for the sponsors. Without your help, this is not possible. And until next time, we'll see you later. Bye, guys.